Welcome to the Tattoo Marketing Podcast. On this week's episode, we are talking to Troy Timpel, the man, the myth, the legend behind Villain Arts. If you live under a rock and you don't know what Villain Arts is, it is a series of 30 different conventions here in the US, including the largest convention in the world right in Philadelphia. So we talked to him about what it was like getting that convention going with Philadelphia Eddie, his apprenticeship, what it was like back then, and all the changes he's seen in the industry. Enjoy. Hey, really quick before we get into the podcast, if you could do us a giant favor and leave us a review on whatever platform you are listening to this on, it's absolutely huge for us and also helps other artists and shop owners find this podcast. We really appreciate it. Enjoy.
So my name's Troy Timpel. I own Villain Arts. I've been hosting tattoo conventions since 2003. My Philly show is the largest tattoo festival in the world. It's celebrated its 27th year this year. I helped Philadelphia Eddie, who is my mentor or protege. He started that show in '98, and I kind of helped him put it together. I was his flyer girl. I was booked the entertainment for him and kind of helped him put it together. And when he retired in 2003, I took the show over, and I've been running it myself since, and then decided to, enter other markets, do other cities, and start traveling the event. It was, really good. It changed the format of what tattoo conventions were when Eddie and back in the late '90s were running them. They were, small airport hotel kind of shows, 60, 70 booth shows. Not real advertised to the general public, open to the general public, but it's more of younger tattooers getting tattooed by older tattooers back then, and I just wanted to kind of make it something for everybody and help create an interest to the public in the medium of tattooing. And I think over the years that I've been doing this, so many more people have gotten interested in the medium of tattooing, gotten their first tattoos, and it helped expand the interest in tattooing in America.
Yeah, definitely going from one small convention to turning it into the biggest in the world and then adding another 29 is a heck of a feat. Um, how did you decide like what other markets to go into? Because
Well, I started out with Milwaukee because I originally grew up in Milwaukee, and I'd been looking for an excuse to go home and visit my friends and family. So did that one, and then I think Minneapolis was next, Chicago was after that, Baltimore, um, and then just kind of started expanding all over the country. Did Kansas City, built on Kansas City with Denver, Houston, and just kind of picked areas that didn't have shows, cities that I felt would support a good show, and just kind of expanded from there.
are you planning on doing more, or are you kind of happy where you're at?
I don't know. Packing my suitcase and jumping on that plane 30 times a year is kind of enough for me. I'd rather enjoy my beach a little bit more. So, I, if anything, I'll try different markets. The whatever show finished last is quote unquote on the chopping block to the office.
Got
So
it.
we'll see what cities I ditch, which cities I want to do, but I do have interest in doing other markets, and maybe replacing existing shows I do with that. I don't know. I don't know how many more than 30 a year I want to really do. It's my wings are getting tired.
It's a lot of traveling, and I've put on a few events that are, I mean, 1,000 people total, and that's a nightmare. So, I mean, I'm sure you're used to it by now, but the amount of work that I can only imagine that goes into putting on tattoo conventions, the size of the ones that you put on, that's that's a lot. That's a lot to do one a year, let alone do 30.
Yeah, and it's a lot of moving parts, especially when you get into the 1,000 booths in Philly, 1,000 booths in Chicago. You're licensing 1,600 artists, 1,500 artists. It's a public of 30,000 people in a weekend. I mean that's like half of a football stadium worth of people.
No.
Coming through. It's a lot to navigate. It's a lot you know to do, and I got a pretty good, real good support staff. Um, People that work full time for the company, you know, and it runs smooth. It's a very smooth running show. We've been doing it for a long time, and you know, and it shows. We want, it's a I'm serving two masters. I serve the public with an interesting thing to go to and pique their interest to get tattooed, and then I have to, you know, feed the artist with the amount of public and interest in getting tattooed at the same proportion. So, it's an interesting thing, and I think I'm doing a pretty successful job with it. With you know, keeping the room fed and the artist busy and the public intrigued.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about Villain Art, so I'm pretty excited to go to the Baltimore show here in a little over a month.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah,
Baltimore's a fun one. The whole little
for
downtown Inner Harbor thing is real cool. It's Baltimore's come a long way. I used to go visit a buddy of mine and get tattooed in Baltimore back in the '90s, and yeah, Baltimore was like, yeah, you know, don't bother locking your car. Take the shit out of it because they'll just smash your windows up. Kind of city back then, and it's really come a long way in reestablishing itself as a downtown urban hub.
yeah, I'm pretty excited for that. Like I said, I've heard really good things. And hoping to see a few more over the next year or so. Uh, so doing this for so long, I mean, you've seen how much has changed as far as marketing for tattoo artists go, shops, conventions. Um, what has been your biggest thing? I mean, when it comes to, I guess, adapting for what technology is doing now, because I'm sure back in the day it was a lot of like flyers, radio, stuff like that. Are you guys doing more social media stuff, paid ads? I mean, what's kind of been the
Yeah, I mean,
changes that you've seen in plan?
they're back when I started this, like geofencing, social media, um, digital ad serving. Those weren't words back then. They became words, and I, had to adapt and learn how to use them. Um, and you know, super stoked, keeping up with the times, and advertising. I must be doing something right. I got 30,000 people that visited me in Philly this year, so
Yeah.
not fucking it up too bad.
No, the fact that you're able to go into new markets and put on these huge show says a lot. When you go into a new market, like if let's say you were going to go into Honolulu or something like that, what's usually your plan of attack? I mean, how do you go from, okay, this is the idea, to, okay, we have the venue, we have the artists, we're letting the public know. Um, what's that process
Well,
look like?
in the case of Honolulu, I'd attack the health department for not allowing me in, and then 2 years later, allowing a local person because they're somewhat racist against mainlanders there,
Got it.
and they didn't want an outside person coming in and doing that. They wanted to keep the money on the island,
Hmm.
and gave the show to what I hear. I'd never met him. What I hear is a super nice dude and runs a great show in Honolulu. However, a little jealous because they didn't want me. Um, Conversely, I went to Alaska, um, which the health department's, not as easy there either. But I wanted to I wanted to hit my 50 states this year. So I did a show or last year. So I did a show in Anchorage, Alaska, and a show in Portland, Maine. And actually coming back to both of those places, they're really nice cities, cool. One of the great things about what I do is it affords tattooers to be able to go all over the country. If you go to a villain art show, you're going to go there, you're going to make your money back, and you're going to have a good time. So, you know, it. I introduced a way for artists to monetize, traveling and being able to get out there, which is super fun. It's super great.
Yeah, it seems like one of the best perks of being a tattoo artist is the ability to travel to amazing shows like that. Um, Seems like they build a pretty tight bond with the other artists, and you're able to make money while you're there. That sounds pretty perfect.
Nice.
Yeah. Um. So how did you actually get into this? I mean, Philadelphia was your first show. How did you become a part of that?
Well, I started tattooing in 1993. I went to art school, did an apprenticeship in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, while I was going to
Okay.
art school in Milwaukee at MyEd. And the apprenticeship wasn't working out so well. Back then, tattooing was a much more gate kept type of thing. And I don't know, I chose a guy that, you know, was kind of a dysfunctional meth dealer of a biker. And
Okay.
yeah, we'll say there was some conflict. So then I got but I was already tattooing really. Yeah, I mean, he had me tattooing for money in like 3 weeks.
Oh
Like,
wow.
well, meth ain't
Pretty.
cheap, I guess. I don't know. Um, so after about a year of that bullshit, I, you know, met, started going to a couple little shows, and um, a coworker got hired at Philadelphia Eddie's, and when a new chair opened up at Eddie's, he got me in. So I got to, move to Philadelphia from, never leaving the state of Wisconsin, to Chicago, but I mean, same thing. Um, to moving to Philly and working for Eddie, who is just a legend in the business, which was amazing. That at the age of 20, I was able to move to Philly and go work for Eddie, and I just worked really super hard at it, and ended up being Eddie's top earner within 2 years, and just I was also willing to you know I was like, man, this is awesome, and I was putting like 70 hours a week in because I just loved it, and it was great. I guess it's hard not to earn over everyone else when you're willing to work 70 hours a week, but you know, it helped blossom my career going to all these conventions with Eddie and being able to, hang out with, the top industry people and, get tattooed by Paul Booth and, have drinks and talk about machines with, all these famous, artists. I got a whole leg sleeve from Sean Anderson. I got, um, you know, drinking whiskey with Bob Tyrell till 4 a.m. I don't know that helped my career, but it, certainly didn't
Yeah.
hurt it.
Yeah.
Um, but and I realized and owe a lot of what I learned as an artist, um, to be able to interact with these people at the shows and get tattooed by all of these really good artists and learn from them and talking machines at a bar at a convention, and like seeing, just being immersed in the culture, you learn so much more. And there's, I feel that the trade shows and my festival, you know, really benefits a lot of these younger artists to be able to, learn from tattooing's elite and be able to see what equipment is, all the new machines, the new I mean the products that came out. I mean man, 93, those machines were clunky and they spit ink all over the fucking place. And
Yeah.
now it's like, you have some of these machines are like $1,500. It's insane. Um, but, the equipment, you know, uh, the inks, the everything, just, you know, the needles themselves being so much more consistent and, longer tapers, um, just the consistency of the equipment that, you know, watching that alone grow, with going to the trade shows and being able to see, what's out there, what people are using, you know, like, oh my God, look at that new Cuban machine. Look at that new FK, like being able to, interact with the artist in a more personal level than, you know, than the shit show that Facebook community groups are, or you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
um, you know, being able to just hang out and have a beer with a real motherfucker is just so much better than, being an armchair troll. Uh, so helped me learn a lot, and it heavily influenced me into how I wanted to, when I took over the Philly show, how I wanted to really expand it into, you know, hitting a larger group of both artists and public, and grow the public together with the artists to be able to make the show bigger, funner, cooler, better entertainment, better, interactive art, better, you know, all of it, to be able to make it more impressive, to grow it and grow it, create a public interest, and having the tattooers have better competition, to better equipment, to putting out better tattoos. And you know the you look at like a tattoo magazine from the 90s, and you look at you know just a cross section of Instagram today, and I mean there's goddamn, there's nothing that would get 10 likes in that magazine in 1990,
Yeah.
compared to what the quality and, a base standard of what is expected out of a tattoo today was then. And I think a lot of that has drawn the public interest into, coming out to shows like mine, to see all these fantastic artists from all over the world, and be able to interact with them. I've tattooed in um, England, Spain, Germany, France, Italy, Czechoslovakia, Sweden, um, Belgium, Denmark, and to be able to travel to all Poland, to be able to travel to all of those places and experience all of those cultures, interacting with, the European guys, and seeing, like, seeing this, some of this painterly color realism stuff that they're doing is just mind blowing. You know, uh, seeing how much even the Japanese stuff, and the Asian tattoos are coming. Like, if you look at um, Shige, Shige, um, and look at his take on, modern day Japanese stuff, seeing where it was and where it's going is just absolutely insane. Um, love love how tattooing's blossomed. A lot of people, and there's a lot of gatekeeping, from the 90s, and I miss the gatekeeping. And one part of me being a 31-year-old tattooer, a lot of the veterans are like, "Get off my lawn," and I get it. It's a lot of it has made it, you know, it's a lot of competition. It's a lot of people, but it's it's allowed tattooing to progress into a way that it otherwise wouldn't have done. And the great tattooers are always going to be busy. They're always going to be creating beautiful works of art, and you know, it is what it is. I'm really, really stoked. every time I judge the contest, seeing people pushing themselves further and further, seeing artists step out of their comfort zones and finding new things. You know, one of the guys that won this weekend in Atlanta, I was judging, and then when they said his name, I was like, wait, he did that? Like, I thought he just did, I thought he just did, sticker embroidery patch, um, like psychedelic stuff. He won tattoo of the day on Saturday with a super clean Japanese tattoo, and I was like,
Hmm.
Jesus, you know. So it's cool to see, the artist being able to push themselves for getting better.
Yeah, and the industry in so many ways has changed so much, but I love the and 100% agree with the like sentiment that even if you're a good artist in your local town, what's going to make you better is like going to a convention, getting a mentor, becoming instead of being that big fish in the small pond, becoming that small fish in the big pond, and that's really what pushes you. Because I mean, again, looking at some of the work that comes out of conventions, um, it's it's a different level, and there's so many different styles. Um, I do think that's one thing any tattoo artist, especially new tattoo artist, should do is like find a good mentor, travel and see like other people's work, and kind of get into the convention so you can make those tight connections with people and see what the possibilities are if you really like hone your craft.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I will say there's probably a lot of changes you have seen in the last 30 years. um, One of the things that when we talk to shops a lot, it's one having an issue finding good apprentices and people that want to work. And that was something I was thinking about when you say you used to work 70 hours a week. It seems like there's not as many people or any people really willing to do that anymore. I've talked to shops where it's kind of a, hey, we want to be out here by 5 o'clock every day. They're not bringing in their own people. It seems like the mentality has shifted a lot with kind of tattoos becoming less taboo. Um, have you noticed that?
Yeah, and I mean, it's also having everything custom drawn took away a lot of the walk-in and everything's appointment. You know, there's
Yeah.
very few you know walk-in. There's almost no flash existing anymore. Of you walk into a shop. I remember the '90s at Philadelphia Eddie's on South Street. You know, the the sales guy would have an envelope with money taped to the wall with a stencil taped to it, and whoever finished up next got the next job. You know, at the end of the day, there'd just be like, you know, um, you'd add up all the little slips at the end of the day and do the payout, and it was just nuts. It was just nonstop. But it was easy because you didn't have to draw it. You didn't have to
Mm.
whatever. At the same time that tattooers are spending a lot more time drawing, being appointment only, they're also getting lazy too, where they're like, oh, I'm just going to book myself, 2 appointments a day, and I'm going to close my books after 3 months of appointments, and then 3 months later, that person that put down that $200 deposit forgot the hell about their $500 tattoo, or you know, or you know. But it's weird to me that like working 12-hour shifts, that people come in, do a 2 hour appointment and then a 1 hour appointment, and then they just leave for the day. I'm done for the day.
Mm.
I'm like, wow, player, you only work 3 hours? I used to work 12. you know,
Yeah.
and that's cool, and it is what it is. But seeing the industry changing in that way, but at the same time, they're spending a lot more time, making sure that the art is their art, and spending a lot more time drawing each of the things, or at least in theory, or just retracing it on an iPad and being lazy and smoking a lot of weed. Either way, you know.
Yeah, either way. Yeah. One thing I have noticed with that as well, at least when I talk to artists and especially newer tattooers, because there's this kind of mentality of not wanting to work a ton in some of the younger tattooers, the ones that are willing to bust their ass are doing amazing. Like they stay booked out. There was a female tattooer I know. She's been tattooing for about 2 years, like pretty darn good. She went on vacation for about 5 weeks. Before she even was like halfway through her vacation, she's already posting on Instagram, doing all these stories and stuff about her openings, the stuff she's drawing. Like she's on vacation, she's booking stuff for when she's getting back, and like that kind of mentality has seemed to serve her really, really well.
You know, the more you put into anything in the world, the more you're going to get out of it. You know, and yeah, love seeing artists booked up and still, at the convention and still seeing their story stream and still had time to, spend 10, 15 minutes editing down, a whole little thing to put out. And, uh, really a lot of it's all, your success in being a tattooer now is really how well you push yourself on social media. I see mediocre tattooers like closing their books, and then I see, fantastic legends, um, you know, with I got openings this week,
Mm.
and it's I guess tattooing has a you got to have a couple different talents than just art nowadays, and it is what it is. You learn, you grow, you evolve, or you fail. You know, it's uh, it's part of the natural process of life, I guess. But
100%.
it's also, I'm happy to see that much, you know, promotion and impressions on social media that are given to tattooing because it creates more of an interest. People are more heavily tattooed. I remember having sleeves and having people like, not in Philly, because Philly was always kind of more of a heavily tattooed blue collar town. So, you know, people in Philly also just don't give a fuck. Um, but I'd travel to, these smaller cities and smaller places, and people would be staring at me because they'd never seen like a person with a sleeve. Or, I mean, and now like, you have people in small towns with like, face jammers,
Yeah.
um, and it's you know, you go into every bar in Philadelphia, and every bartender, waiter, and server has a forearm tattoo. You know, um, 15 years ago, they wouldn't even get hired for that job with a visible tattoo. You know, so our culture has gotten so much more immersive with and accepting of tattoo. And I just love the way that it's embraced it, and happy over the last 20 years of my convention promoting career that I added a little bit to that. Seeing cities that I go into, like Kansas City, the first year we went there, um, judging the contest, it was like a whole lot of people in the small and medium category, almost nobody in the large. We went home with the XL trophies. Like nobody even entered, you know? We're
Yeah.
watching the public's watching our stage contest, which is a girl that takes a big needle and pokes it. It's a human pincushion act. Which is an old sideshow act that goes back to the early circus days. And she's putting this big needle through. Two different people fell over, passed out, just watching her perform. You know. And at the end of it, my guy's like, I don't know if Kansas City's really your market for this. I just don't think people here have tattoos. They just don't have an interest in tattoos like that. I don't know. I think you're swimming upstream. We should just try a different market. I'm like, you know what? I think I can build something here. And then every year after that, the contest started more in the large, more in the XL. Year two, I didn't go home with the XL trophies. And slowly, you know, Kansas City became more of a tattooed town. And given there was old tattooers there, like Grimm's there, they've had tattooers there for years. It just didn't really have as much of the general audience of of people being heavily tattooed. And, you you tend to see the trends start on the East Coast and the West Coast, and it takes a while to get to the middle of the country for the cool shit.
Yeah.
Um, so you know, I think having the shows like that gave the public kind of what is this? Oh, this is fun. I'm going to come back next year and bring my wife. I'm going to come back next year and get 2 tattoos. You know, and you know, I think it's fun to see tattooing growing and to see my own personal influence into how the city's reacting to tattoos. How much I grew an interest in a city like Kansas City or Minneapolis or these Milwaukee. Milwaukee didn't even have tattooing legal until 1996. Like the health department, you couldn't even tattoo legally in Milwaukee until '96. So, not a heavily tattooed town. There were Oklahoma City didn't have tattooing until I don't know 2003 or four or something. It was like really late in the game for I think it was the whole state of Oklahoma. Um, and now like I do a show in Oklahoma City, and yeah, it's super popular. People are really into tattoos there now. You know, um, but it's only one generation of people that were really exposed to that kind of culture in a lot of you know a lot of America. You know, where the big cities, East Coast, West Coast, people people had tattoos for generations, but they didn't in the Midwest or the South or the Deep South or you know the mountains. They just didn't really have access to it. They didn't really have much of a culture or draw for it. So it's neat to see all of the exposure from first the magazines in the '90s to then the internet, the social media, and the conventions all give their fair share into helping create you know such interest in seeing so many people have access to good tattoos, seeing them know the difference between good tattoos and bad tattoos. Even as much as you know, people, veteran tattooers my age would bash Ink Master. I'm like, no, that thing's great. A ton of people want to get tattooed now because they see this on TV and they want to get better tattoos because it's a competition based thing. So, the people with money, they want to spend the money and they want to get the best tattoo because, you know, I don't know who wants to lose on that show. So it all played interesting parts to tattooing's development.
Yeah, I'd say in this day and age, it's almost weirder to not have a tattoo than at least have one or two. Which,
Yeah,
you know,
this weekend, as we're all talking at the Claremont and after the show, they were like, who really broke it open? And I'm like, who's that? And they're like, Dennis Rodman. You know, the a lot of and you got to even look at was tattooing just for white people in the '70s? Was tattooing just for like the the Chicano East LA thing was a style, but was that more geographic to Southern California than a lot of the Spanish influence for the rest of the country? Do you know what I mean? But
mhm.
seeing basketball, sports stars, music, people that are genuine cultural influencers, to see them heavily tattooed, really, really piqued the public's interest. They're like, man, look at that guy. He stands out in a crowd. When he's on that basketball court, he's the only guy with the pink hair and the tattoos on there. Like he really stood out. I actually met him in Chicago last year. He was
Oh,
staying in our hotel. They were doing a comic or what's that called? The trading cards or the sport card. They did a sport card show upstairs, sports memorabilia and stuff like that. So they paid him to do an autograph booth. And
oh, cool.
so he walked down and walked through our show. And yeah, I tried to get him to suspend, do where you suspend with the hooks in your back. And I
Yeah.
almost had him, but then he was like, nah, I can't do that. Well, first he wanted 10 grand. Then he was like, all right, I'll take five. And I'm like, cool. And then he's like, wait, what do I have to do again? And he's like, nah, I can't do that.
I bet he loved walking through the convention though. That's like the perfect person for that. Oh, and yeah, looking at him, it back in like the 90s when he played and stuff, he was one of the like he stood out one obviously because of the hair and piercings, but the tattoos. And now you look at professional sports athletes and it's a completely normal thing. Just
Yeah,
showing how much the industry and tattooing and the taboo behind it has changed the last 20, 30 years. So
yeah,
pretty cool.
love it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. If someone like a tattoo artist, whether they're new, whether they've been around for a while, if they've never done a convention, one they should. Again, everyone I talk to that does the convention circuits, they have like groups of friends that they're really tight with. They have a lot of fun. Always think it's a great idea. And again, you get to see different styles, different levels of artists there. Um, but what do they need to do to have a booth at your show or compete if somebody has no experience in this?
Well, I mean, the contests are open to anybody that has $10 to enter. uh, Getting a booth and actually tattooing at Villain Arts is a little bit more of a complex process. You have to email us. We don't do apprentices. You have to have a 2-year minimum that you've been tattooing as an apprentice, and even then or 3-year. Um, we want all of the artists there to be well seasoned, good tattooers that are going to do our shows. So we definitely have like a minimum quality baseline of what and who we accept into being able to do our shows. So, we do turn away a lot of people, and it is what it is. We need to have good talent, and you know, the last couple of years, it's we're more exploding with people that want in on it than what are really ready for tattooing on a convention floor, for their skill set, So, we, you know, it's not a place to cut your teeth. You do that in a street shop or like get a mentor, get an apprenticeship. You know, you're not going to learn how to tattoo on our circuit, but at the same time, if you're, just starting out, you're interested in tattooing, get an apprenticeship, and come to the shows, meet people, see the equipment that's there, interact and talk to people because that's how you grow and that's how you learn.
Yeah, one of the other things I want to touch on are the seminars because we'll be putting one on at the show in Baltimore. But when I've heard people talk about it that haven't gone to conventions, that don't do the circuit or anything like that, they don't usually know that there's a ton of educational seminars that go on at these conventions where you can learn all different types of skills that are going to help you in your career. Um, so it's one of those things that if you're there, take advantage of it.
Yeah,
There's some
take advantage,
talented people, super talented people there.
learn and grow.
100%. Well, I've taken up almost an hour of your time. If somebody lives under a rock and they don't know what Villain Arts is, where would they go to find you? Where would they go to find out about the conventions?
Go to our website, which is villainarts.com. Check out our Instagram and Facebook at villainarts.com. Each of the shows have a separate Facebook and event page, that we try to feature the artists that are at those particular events. And then, our main is just advertising our events and just a lot of the artists work that do our shows in general. And yeah, check us out on social media. Give us a like, give us a follow, and come see us at Villain Arts. We're at 30 shows spread from Anchorage, Alaska to Portland, Maine. We can't be too far of a drive from wherever the hell you're sitting right now.
100%. Well, Troy, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate you.